ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the subject matter. I'm your host. I said no laughing. I'm your host, Stephen Jenkins, here with your co-host, Mr. Jonathan Datton, and special guest, Mr. Austin DeBlock. We are experts in nothing, here to give you our thoughts and opinions on all of it. Welcome to the most well-dressed episode of the subject matter that we've ever had thus far. And I'm wearing a Cobra Kai shirt under my jacket because I didn't have anything else.
Why'd you start talking like that?
Talking like what?
Like that, right
like
there.
this?
Yeah.
Because
back to your normal voice.
So, Jonathan is a step up. He's a professional golfer guy, and he looks like he could be in a business meeting for negotiating anywhere between $500,000 to $555,000. And Austin
500 to 500, it's a close range.
Yeah,
very specific.
Austin looks like he could perhaps be negotiating $1 billion deal, or he has something to sell you.
I feel like I just...
One of the two.
I feel like I just stepped out of like a coffin, honestly. Like sometimes when I wear the third piece, I just feel like I just rose from the
He's very dashing. Yeah, I'm gonna switch to my American accent now.
Okay, yeah.
The bit has worn off. But welcome back to another episode. We haven't had Austin on since season 2.
I am the only ever repeat guest, so that makes me the best guest so far.
You are, in fact, not the only repeat guest.
Had a couple before me, but that's all right.
But you are the only one who recorded his episode and didn't have it posted for like 8 months.
That was a long time.
That was a good
so
bit
who
of
knows
time.
when you'll be seeing this. Just so you know, the date is January 14th, 2007. So whenever you're seeing this,
Whenever we are all 40 years old or something now. What would the time? Anyway,
whatever, it doesn't matter.
No, but
we're here now. That's what makes
here
us
now.
great.
That's what matters.
But yeah, so
okay,
Austin, we're talking about two things tonight. We're talking about building this, and we're talking about a trip you recently took to. Addie thought it was Uganda.
Uganda?
It was not Uganda.
That would be sweet. That would be a very cool trip too. I imagine it's quite the same as where I went though. It was pretty similar, but we went to El Salvador.
Gotcha.
A little trip we made. It's just sweet.
So, which one do you want to start with? This is your story, so we'll let you.
Well, first let's talk about this room we're in because they've seen this for a while, but I haven't seen it yet. It looks good. You did a good job, and all the palettes worked out great.
Which, for the record, in case you're not aware, Austin was the designer of the set that we had. He came up with the plan
slightly
for the set.
It was these guys did a lot too. It wasn't just me.
Steven did absolutely nothing.
Steven took all the pallets apart to make this, and
some of them, yes.
Yeah, and that was a
pallet wall was my idea, but okay, whatever. Yeah. Anyway. No, but Austin was the person who came up how we were going to do everything. Jonathan and I came up with like the general idea of like, okay, how do we want it to look? But Austin was the one who said, okay, we're going to take these pallets, we're going to rip them apart, we're going to put up. He's the one who put up the studs behind those pallets over there, and I'm pretty sure he was the one that suggested we have a blank wall with a couple of pallets bleeding over.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he's the one who designed that shelf that the TV is sitting on as well.
Yes, I will take credit for that because that does look pretty sweet. But trying to fulfill some of their requests on this room was a little bit difficult.
Yes.
Because they wanted some crazy stuff. And we settled on this, and it came out clean, came out sleek. It's not too busy with this wall, but, that's that.
Well, and there's no actual wall.
Yeah, it's not really.
This is metal shelving with some drywall put up. And so that was a feat of engineering on our part.
In itself, yeah.
But
this stuff will last a long time. The paint color, because they say like black paint, like black don't crack, so it won't have any problems with holding anything. That's pretty sweet.
Except
it's a good choice.
Except for when this microphone falls on it, and
except for when we move this, how we manage that, because obviously that wall is taller than the door frame.
Yeah, they just told me tonight that you have to move all this stuff out, and I was like,
yeah,
we just got it. I feel like, well, to me, we just got it, but you guys have enjoyed it for a while.
Yeah,
we just got it to this point.
Yeah, whole season, 8 months or so, something like that. It was in August.
A decent amount of time.
Almost as long as it took my first episode to get published.
It's actually accurate, which is the sad part. But yeah, so tell us about the trip to El Salvador. How did that come about, and how did that go?
That was pretty crazy. Well, my uncle was in for Thanksgiving, And we were all sitting around, and my cousin, one of the first things he said to me when he came in was like, "Hey, I'm going with Uncle Daniel," and he's like, "We're going to El Salvador," and I was like, "No way, that's sweet." And then they said you should come, and that was Thursday morning before lunch, and like by that night I bought tickets, and we just
Gotcha.
We didn't have any plans for. I didn't have any plans for what we were doing down there. We stayed with my uncle's parents and his family. And so they kind of planned everything for us, and we just went with the ride, like went along with the flow of traffic and all that, and we had a sweet time. It was sweet. It was
Yeah.
very
So
cool.
it was like a family started instigation of trip.
Yes, yeah, because like I said, my uncle moved to America when he was 25, so all of his family and pretty much half of his life, when you think about it, is in El Salvador.
Gotcha.
And so whenever he first invited my cousin Nate to come, Nate was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Nate's actually also waiting for like PA school,
Okay.
which is like it's like full-time school for medical students, basically, to be a physician's assistant. But anyway, so he has no job, not going to school or anything right now. He has like a couple months off, and I was in the same boat at the time because I hadn't started school yet, and so it was just like everything just like worked out perfectly. Well, then Nate's twin brother Nate. Just got married.
What?
Nate?
Nate's twin brother, Nate.
Nate's twin brother, Ben, just got married.
Wait a minute.
Okay, Nate's twin brother, he just got married. And so he's also waiting for the school to start because, it's like, yeah, you understand. And so we were like, oh, we would even think about it because we were like, Ben just got married. Like, he's not going to come. He got married this past summer. And we were like, oh, he can't come. We're not even gonna like bother with him. Well, then all of a sudden he calls me one day and he's like, hey, I just bought tickets. He's like, I'm coming too. And so we were there for like eight days, and it was me, Ben, Nate, they're my cousins, and then my Uncle Daniel, and then my entire the entire part of his family. It was sweet. Very cool trip.
Nice. So what'd you guys do?
Yeah.
Tell us about the activities.
Experience.
Yeah, we got to try a lot of food.
That's cool.
That's always the
That's
best
always-
part of a trip.
Yeah, and the nice thing, one of the like my favorite parts about the country is like everything is so cheap. For
Yeah.
Americans, when you travel there, like you can really do like everything you want in that country, and you don't have to be wealthy at all. They use American dollars, so you don't have to change any money.
That's cool.
And it's like one of the only other countries who like totally relies on our dollar to spend like every single day.
For their currency.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
And,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, if we were to get a hamburger here, it costs us what?
Yeah, $5, $6.
$5
Yeah.
bucks. What would it cost you there?
Well, honestly, we didn't get
Or
any.
something
We didn't get any
comparable.
hamburgers, but I'll
Something
compare. I'll compare like Okay, I'll compare this. We went out to this really nice restaurant. I think it'd be the equivalent of like our Sand Springs. So I mean,
Okay.
decently nice. Like maybe you can spend 20 to maybe 30 bucks a person pretty easily there, okay? And so they have these things called pupusas. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've heard of them.
You have? Okay, sweet. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, they're like really good. They're just like it's a tortilla with filling in it, and then they just throw it on a big skillet, and so they make like hundreds of them really easily. They're quick and cheap, and everybody in the country loves them, from what I can tell. It's like our pizza.
Okay.
And so we took everybody out to eat one night, and there was maybe I want to say there was 15 to 17 people, and the crazy thing is everybody they eat dinner late at night, so everyone's starving. So we ate dinner at like 9, 10 o'clock, and we're eating over this restaurant on a balcony, a small balcony, and overlooking the entire city at night. So it's all like lit by all the lights, and you can see the traffic roads and the main highway run through the city, and you can see all the stars above you and everything. It was like an incredible spot. I think it was called the Attic. Like an attic, not addict.
Addict.
The attic.
Attic.
And
Attic.
so everybody ate like 4 or 5, maybe 3, 4, 5 of these pupusas, as much as they could eat. And then everybody was getting like, you don't drink water. Nobody orders tap water there. So you either get a bottle of water, or if you're paying $1 for a bottle of water, most of the time you're just like, I'll get a Coke, because I mean you can get Coke for $1 as well. And so everybody was getting not only Coke, but then like smoothies and specialty drinks. And we had like 1 or 2 maybe full-time servers that were just like always right there with us and stuff. And we the bill, we saw the bill. I got the bill. and it was like $90. And there
That's
was like
not bad.
there was
So
like
bad.
17 people that
So-
ate
wow.
a
Oh, wow.
huge meal. Like just think about
Yeah.
how cheap that is. That's like $5 a person, maybe $6 a person. Like
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if you can't get if you went out for appetizers, it would cost more than that.
If you went out and got like a $10 appetizer for 7 people,
Yeah,
I mean that's 17 people.
yeah.
That's $170.
Yeah, so
bucks,
double the
yeah.
price, and you haven't even gotten it. It was just like we
That's
were
crazy.
blown away by just how different that part of that part of life was. I mean, for
Interesting.
us, but yet in their sense, that would be that's just the
That's
equivalent.
so
I would
of
say
like,
so. I would say so. It's
Yeah.
equivalent for them.
Yeah,
but
it'd be-
for us, it's
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The crazy thing is also their minimum wage is like $10 a day, I believe, a day.
Wow.
And
A
think
day.
about ours.
Wow.
I think is like what 14 in Maryland right now.
yeah, it's going up. So
By the time you see this, it'll probably
day?
be like 25. No, for like an
it
hour.
was
I
like
mean.
for an
Sorry,
hour.
yeah, think about that.
Yeah, and theirs
hour
is a
compared to
day or
yeah.
yeah,
it's like
that's
$1,
crazy.
like $1.25 an hour for an 8-hour job.
That's nuts.
That's insane.
Yeah. No, first thing we did when we got in the country is we're obviously at the airport, and we get out of our car we get in our car, I should say, and we're driving on the highway. Well, traffic is terrible there,
Okay.
and we were in the capital of the country, so it'd be like our DC. Traffic is just a nightmare, and so we're in bumper to bumper traffic for a while. Well, all of a sudden, all the lights on our dash on the dash go off. And my uncle was driving, and he was borrowing somebody's car. Well, I should preface by saying all the lights on the dash went off. But before that, when we got in the car, like no warning lights were on. And then by the time we got to this point in the highway, like OBS, battery, engine overheating, O2 sensors, every single warning light was
Jeez.
on. Low tire pressure, everything. And so like he's just gabbing on about like, so happy you guys are here, and I'm sitting in the back seat and I'm kind of looking up there like noticing like all these like a Christmas tree forming.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah, right. And so then everything just shuts off in our car. The alternator went out. We didn't know it at that point.
Okay.
And so everything the car basically stalls out in the middle of the highway, but bumper to bumper traffic. And so we didn't have anything else to do, but like me and my 2 cousins, we just got out and started pushing this like little cube car on the highway. And I mean, it was small, but it must have looked pretty weird considering the average of Salvadorian. I didn't see anybody like over 6 foot the whole time I was there. And so everywhere we went, I'm like maybe
giant to
I'm
them.
6'2", maybe 6. How tall are you?
6'3".
Yeah, okay. I'm a little shorter than Jonathan, and like you and I we just stick out like sore thumbs. Everybody's like
Giants.
looking at us, and so on top of being white in a country where there are no white people, and then being 6'2", we'll say 6'2", and then on top of that with 2 identical twins getting out and pushing a car. We looked like so weird. It was so confusing for like the locals to watch that happen. But
You
we
probably
got it
made
all
their
straightened
day.
away. Yeah, probably.
Everybody sat around the table. Did you see on the
Yeah.
highway
Yeah.
today?
Now that's another crazy thing, man.
Nuts.
Is they have so much more of a value on family. than we do.
Yeah.
That's what
And
I've heard. Yeah.
I was blown away by that. And they don't care about the things that we like Americans care about. We're so like materialistic compared to them. And I'm sure you've already hear this, but when you see it firsthand, it really changes you. It changes the way you think. That was just crazy to me. They didn't care about cars they drove or the houses they lived in, but they were just like obsessed and made sure that their family was, well taken care of.
And that's crazy because that's not relatively that far, is it? I don't know exactly where El Salvador is.
So where did you fly out of to get there? How long was your flight?
So we actually flew out of Ohio. By the time you figure it out from Maryland where we live, it's like 30 minutes further to fly out of Ohio for me.
Okay.
Compared to like Baltimore, and then also my aunt and uncle live like 20 minutes from out of Cleveland, and so we just stay with them, and it works out perfect. You know what I mean, to fly out of there, and my uncle that was in El Salvador with us, so whenever we flew out of Ohio, we flew to Texas, and that was maybe a 3-hour flight, and then from Texas we flew down there, and we had a layover, and it was 4 more hours. It wasn't bad at all. It was not bad.
It's not bad.
It's just crazy how different culture can change. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit before. Even from state to state, things can be different. But
absolutely.
Just not that far away in how different people live their lives. It's always been interesting to me.
Oh no.
I mean, you go across the pond and it's completely different, and then you just drive in America, 3 hours one way, and it's just a completely different way of life.
I know, you drive in America and it's like you can get pulled over for having a taillight out, and you drive in another country and you realize that taillights are like the least of the traffic laws.
Who cares about taillights?
People
taillights?
piled up on trucks driving down the highway, and like, this sounds crazy to Americans, but it's 100% normal for them. And the first day we were there, we're taking pictures of these people like hanging off the back of like pickup trucks on the highway, 80 miles an hour. And then, like, by the third day, honestly, I'm looking at the pictures again. I'm like, why did I take a picture? This is so dumb. I'm like, oh, on the first day, this was a big deal.
Yeah.
But by the third day, things just become very normal to you.
Just totally normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I find it to be one of those things that, like, in our area specifically, you can go 3 hours in any direction and find, like, 5 different types of...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You go 3 hours one way from our area, you're going to end up in like Ocean City or in DC or something like that. And it's complete city life. We're in a little bit of a rural area, but there's still stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas you drive 3 hours down in West Virginia and there's just nothing. Just absolutely nothing. Drive 3 hours the other way, you're close to Philadelphia. And it's just so, it's crazy. And then you go to a different country and you have... it's just 100% different. Relatively speaking, not that far removed, at least from where we are.
It's like it was 2000. I know that was the other thing is you think about like all I had to do to get here was just sit in a plane, and that's also crazy because you're 2,000 miles away, and we stepped out of the airport and it was like a different world. I mean, El Salvador smells different. Like, it has a smell, not a bad smell, it just has a smell. Different. Central America smells different. And in Central America, in movies, it's all like brown, and the sun is just so much more powerful than it is here. That colors just seem so much brighter, and like it's just pictures that I have on my phone of things that look just like totally different. It's just like a different world. Also, we're comparing January to somewhere where like the low temperature is never below 60 degrees.
Right.
Yeah.
But El Salvadorians, man, they get cold easy. Like, we're in a car, all right? And so after our car broke down, we had somebody else come pick us up in a like a brand new compact truck, right? So this guy was Willie. Willie was a sweet guy, all right? And he didn't speak any English, and so the whole time we're sitting in the back of his truck with my uncle up front. We turn the air down in the back, or we like crank it down because we were like, it's hot. It's like 80 degrees.
You turned the temperature down.
Yes, we made it like 65,
Okay,
so like below, like low. And Willie's up there, and before long, I kid you not, his teeth start to chatter.
Yeah.
And it's like typical AC for us. But like,
yeah.
Willie was a great guy, though. The whole time we were there, he was just nice. He's a good guy.
Well, that's similar. We had a discussion on one of the previous episodes with my uncle, who's an immigrant from Haiti.
Hates the cold.
And he hates the cold
Really
the exact same
Yeah.
way. I mean, he's like, let's have it 80 degrees all day, every day at a minimum, No, that's what I've heard.
That would drive you nuts, Steven.
Oh, absolutely. Likewise, I mean, I'm a warm-blooded individual. I can't stand too much heat, or it's just, I don't know. I don't like sticking to myself. But, no, that's certainly an interesting trip.
What's the saying about hotter than the devil's tit in a brass bra or something like that? It's like that's how we felt like as Americans there.
Right.
It was just hot.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. That sounds like a fun trip, though. At least,
Yeah, it
like,
was sweet. I'd
would you-
recommend everybody.
So what's
get out
your
of
coolest thing? What was the coolest thing that you experienced while you were down there?
The coolest thing, I'm gonna say physical things because there's a lot of like little, and this is gonna sound very white, very American,
Okay.
and very cliche, but there's a lot of like lessons that you learn about just how privileged America is,
Absolutely.
and you also learn just how soft America is.
I guess. Yeah.
On a lot of things compared to El Salvador. But the coolest thing that I saw probably had to be the volcanoes. I'd never seen a volcano in person, and there's volcanoes everywhere. The whole landscape from what we saw was relatively flat, with just volcanoes just peeking up in the distance. And so we went and saw 2 or 3 different volcanoes while we were there. And you drive up, you feel like you're on a hiking trail, and you drive up this paved road that's so steep it doesn't seem like it can be a road. don't have to worry about snow, so they can make the roads as steep as they want.
True, yeah.
And
Very
so
true.
you wind up and back and forth up this volcano for like 45 minutes, and you get to the top, and then you just have like this breathtaking view for as long as you can see, and it's just
That's cool.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
No, that's crazy. We've asked other guests. This is for whatever reason, it's a recurring topic on the subject matter, but we've asked other guests. I don't think we've asked you this. El Salvador, obviously, was a great trip. Where would you rank that sort of in your trips that you've been on? And then also, like, is there a place on Earth that you would say is like a bucket list place that you really want to visit?
Ooh, that's a deep question. That's kind of loaded too. I would say El Salvador was up there. So I'm not a big traveler guy.
Okay.
I mean, I've been to the Bahamas. I've been into Canada and into central, into the middle of Canada, so a little further north than like Michigan. And I would say El Salvador was up there, but it wasn't just because of like of the land that we saw and the things that we did, but just because of the culture. It was just so unique. And there was just something special in the air there. And that was cool.
That is a huge part of traveling is the culture. I mean,
It's
like
culture.
I noticed because I went to London and then I went to Israel within like 3 months of each other, and you would think that like typical American would fit in more in London more than the Middle East, right? But I will go back to Israel any day of the week before I go back to London. London was fine, but it was a lot different than I was expecting it to be for whatever reason. Even just like thinking about like the food, you were talking about the food and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
the
London
food in
food
London
sucks.
is
They boil everything over there.
no
You
offense
don't want
to
nothing.
anybody from London.
Oh, they know it sucks
but,
too.
You know, it's like they went through the entire world and took back all the spices from the entire world and decided to use none of them.
Yeah.
The best meal, this is the joke that I have, but it's probably true. The best meal I had on that entire trip, besides a single steak that I had from one restaurant, was when we came back and went to TGI Fridays before we drove home. Yeah. But then 3 months later, I went to Israel, and that was some of the best food that I've ever had. I mean, they had like the Middle Eastern, like hummus, falafel, a lot of that different type of stuff. It was very much the same, but I could eat it 24/7. It was so amazing. And then, like you said, just the culture down there was just a lot different.
Yeah, so like I was gonna ask, like, what's the vibe you got? Like, what did you think of? Like, what did you just think of the people and the culture? Like, what was the impression
in both
you got?
places, or which?
In Israel, because I know Israel's a little different than most of the Middle East, but and in certain parts of the Middle East, Americans are not liked at all. And so, as an American, as a very obvious American too, like
Yes.
we are both very American looking. Like, what was the vibe you got?
Yeah, they were very. I don't know what the best way to put it is, because some of them were very much like what you would have expected from a country in the Middle East, but then also a lot of them, and I don't mean this in any bad way towards those other people or anything like that, but a lot of them were just really chill.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No,
just
makes sense.
totally laid back. And, you know, you get like some of the people, you're walking down the street and you have the people who know the tourists are coming and they're the vendors and they got to sell you something, right? So you have that, obviously. That's sort of the stereotype, but that's not everybody. A lot of it was just very nice, very accommodating. The hotels that we stayed at, everybody was super friendly. And maybe that's because it was at a tourist location and they were trying to, you know, invite the tourists. But we went to other places because I was there with the church, and so we were touring a bunch of historical sites. But many of them they all just seemed genuinely interested in being like, you know, showing us different things and taking us on boat rides, and just very laid back was something that I personally wasn't expecting going there. And even like what you were saying, how a lot of the things that we care a lot about here, thinking about riding on the back of vehicles or whatever, not quite to that extent, but it was just sort of like, you know, that person is doing something over there that, like, I can't believe that's happening in public. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they don't care. Now, there were other things because it is the Middle East, so security was a lot tighter in a lot of different areas. I mean, we went to Old Jerusalem, and you had to, like, each time you had to go through like full security checks just to get into the city. And obviously that's a pretty big religiously historical site, so that's part of the reason why. But the people themselves were laid back, but also some of the laws and like what you could and couldn't do in certain areas were a lot more strict. There's also in Israel it's a hub because you have, you have the Jewish people, you have the Christians, you have the Muslims, and then also maybe there's overlap here. It could be incorrect on this, but there's also like the Palestinians. And so there's a lot of different groups there. And it's not, I wouldn't personally call it a melting pot like America, because I think in America, the idea is that everybody's kind of being there and like it's a melting, you're melting everybody together. Whereas individuals can be very laid back in Israel, but it's all very like they are in their separate groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You said a huge thing about like melting pot, because in my mind, America is up until our trip, America was the gold standard for a lot of things, and America was in the majority. America's like social, not socialism, but like the social, the kind of policies that we follow in America were the gold standard, and they were normal. And the day I went there, I realized that America is in the minority of every single thing that we do. Yep. We are in the minority. Everywhere else in the world lives differently than we do, not because of their income or how much money they have, or that that America is just so prosperous, but they just live differently. Yeah. And the melting pot thing of America, you don't realize how good Americans have it. If that's your key thing, if you're into that and you treasure that, treasure America, because the rest of the world is not near, at least where I've been, is not near as diverse as America. I mean, if you saw a Salvadorian person, you wouldn't, and they only spoke Spanish, you would not think anything of it. It would be totally normal. But like while I was there, so flip the role. Now you see an American, a white person in El Salvador that doesn't speak Spanish. It was the weirdest thing for them. Yeah. And even people of like other races were looked at, just, you could tell that they just stuck out and people were looking at them. Yeah. It's crazy.
And Jonathan, you've been to other countries before, I assume. Yeah. Is
Bahamas,
you can chime in on the conversation here too.
No, it was just unique. I think that one thing that I found really unique was when I went to Texas this year. But Texas, where I went, was very, very far south. So I was like 20 minutes from the border. Okay. And so when you look at the map, like you would think that when you cross the border to another country, that everything would just automatically change.
Right. It kind of blurs. It kind of blurs over.
Like a Home Depot, I was looking at the map. I'm like, what if I need to go to TJ Maxx? Well, there's one here, and there's one right across the border. I need to go to Lowe's. There's one here. There's one right across the border in Mexico. It's like, wait a minute here. I didn't know they had stores that were, you think of as being in America in Mexico, which I thought was, unique. The other thing that's related to the topic but a little bit different is, so today I was scrolling through social media and I saw where, and none of us had this much money, but $190,000, you could do a 24-night stay at Four Seasons Resorts, and they have a private jet take you from each resort. So you stay three nights, go to somewhere new. But it was like here in London and France and Madagascar, all over the place.
That'd be
so cool.
That would be cool. But I'll throw this out on you: is that at least maybe this is just me. Let me know what y'all think. But I don't appreciate tourism anymore. Touristy things, they do not appeal to me at all.
Fair enough.
When we went in El Salvador, we lived with middle to lower middle class, and we did. I don't want to say things that locals did, but I think we got as close to it as we could without staying there for a month.
Absolutely.
And speaking Spanish, and that was so much more unique to me because you got to see something for what it was, and not. You got to see a country for what it was, and not the country putting up a facade of this is what we think
it looks
the
like
best. This is what we think the best of what we have is. And we're going to take you to this resort, and there's going to be a wall around it. And similar to that, and then we're just going to pick you up and through a bus or through a plane and pick you up and then put you in another similar situation. And you almost get like this watered down American
sense of what it actually is.
And it's not even real.
No, that's absolutely fair.
I am 100%. looking now for vacations or places. I don't even want to call that a vacation. It was a vacation, but it didn't feel like
it was a trip, but it didn't feel like you were there to sightsee.
Exactly. It wasn't.
Experiences on trips are much better.
Much different.
Than,
Yes, there's a difference between a trip and a vacation too.
It's absolutely
A trip,
100%.
a trip is when you go and you live your life, but you just move somewhere else. And a vacation is when you do the touristy things. And I'm in it for trips now. Trips are sold on me. I'll spend more money. I want to do trips. I don't want to do vacations.
I get it.
I haven't been on that type of trip, so I can't speak to that. I would venture a guess, just because I know me, that I will appreciate both. Because I like seeing the tourist stuff. But I also can imagine, like what you said, the way you described your trip. I think it also helps, too, that you did have family down there as well. Oh, yeah. So you kind of had, I don't want to say they were your tour guides, but, I mean, they knew the culture a little bit, I think, right? Yeah. So,
and it was also kind of unique because the family that we were staying with, I don't want to say was famous, but was well known in their community.
Okay.
And so, like, the Castro name, from what I understood, was respected, and they're very kind, which obviously we got that too. But they're kind when we're not there, and that was also kind of unique because people knew that. Like, people just assume that you're staying with them, you're with them,
you're a good person,
that you're good. And we didn't have, El Salvador was an incredibly dangerous country 3 years ago. And I'm not going to get into their whole story, but they came out of a civil war not too long ago. And, like, the things that they dealt with over the past 3 years was insane compared to, like, what we saw. It had been so cleaned up. And that was also incredible.
That's good.
Yeah.
To wrap things up, I'll let you, if you have any place that you are now thinking you'd like to find a trip.
You know what? Drop me off in the middle of the Middle East. Honestly, I just want to experience the exact opposite of what America is, and I think that's as far as you can get. Is when maybe I'm wrong, but I mean socially they're as far away from what we are. And I just want to see what it looks like.
Yeah. I would say probably that, or maybe something like China.
Yeah,
China.
Socially, it's going to be
cool.
pretty different. Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense.
Russia.
Russia. Yeah.
Russia.
Yeah.
Russia would be. I think Russia would be cool too. But here's the thing.
How
I would want to do those countries is somehow, like, it would be almost impossible, but somehow just meet somebody and become best friends with them from that country.
Say, hey, show me around.
And literally just be like, what do you want to do? You want to go out to eat? We'll go out to eat. We'll do whatever you want to do. Just bring me along with you, and we'll have the best trip.
There's got to be some sort of, like, student program somewhere that lets you.
Oh, yeah. That's what traveling abroad's all about.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know. As far as, like, that type of trip go, if things with Russia would be a little bit different, I actually would probably say something like Russia.
Germany's on my list.
I was going to say Germany, too.
Germany would be cool, yeah.
Germany's one of those countries that's not on a lot of people's lists.
No.
And half of my family on my dad's side is Welsh, and half of my family on my mom's side is they're Dutch, so they're originally from Germany. And so I'd be interested to go to Germany.
Germany, Poland, all that area over there, that's where I would want to go.
Yeah. Touristy wise, something like the Swiss Alps and things like that. But
like Italy would be a place where I would do the touristy stuff, I think. Because I think, to me, like, the touristy Italy is appealing. I don't know if the real Italy is appealing. I think it is.
I think it'd be worth exploring either way.
Absolutely, but I think if I had to do touristy things somewhere, I think it would be there or somewhere very far south, as in, like, beach trip. Because when you go to the beach, you just want to be on a nice beach.
Yeah.
And you don't really care if you're, like, doing the local stuff.
Yeah. I'm not
at least for me. Maybe
I don't like being on the beach in general.
You're not a big beach guy.
No, but I would go to the beach any day, but I would do more of the experiences.
Yeah.
If anyone knows me, I cram as much stuff, whether it's touristy or not, into a trip that I possibly can. Mm-hmm. And none of my time spent on a trip is relaxing. I do not want to relax when I'm not at home.
Hey. I like relaxing. I don't like relaxing on the beach specifically. Yeah. If I'm at the beach, I like to go out and do stuff. Yeah. That's a type of trip. That and Disney World are the places that I like to go out and do stuff. Disney is a vacation and not a trip.
Controversial opinion is if I had the opportunity to go to Disney again, I would pass on it because we had fun when we went, but it is not my vacation at all. It's not my cup of tea.
I'm going to Orlando in May.
respect that. I can't say I would agree with it, but I respect
I know that's
that.
so unpopular because everybody. But honestly, like growing up, like all my friends talked about like how great Disney was,
It's not
and
great.
and I just was like, whoa, this idea of it was like in my mind from when I was little that this is just like the mecca for like nostalgia and child happiness. But it just wasn't. Disney just wasn't what I was
Disney's
expecting.
not my thing either.
I think if you're
I would go for
I know this is hard. I know
Animal Kingdom, all for it.
this is hard because
anywhere else in
Steven's
Disney,
diehard.
no, I
could care less.
I'm not as diehard to the point where I don't understand. I'll put it that way.
Okay, got you.
I can sympathize. I can't empathize, but I can sympathize.
Yes.
I understand that not a lot of people. If you're not into Disney as much as other people, you're not going to like Disney World.
It's too
If you're not,
expensive.
if you're not as, it's expensive, absolutely. And if you're not somebody who is easily immersed in fantasy, because realistically, when you go to something like El Salvador, you're there. That's all real. You know what I mean? You go to Disney World and you have
Yes,
to
that's
pretend
Yeah.
that you're there. Don't get me wrong. I'm good at pretending. I'm good at immersing myself, especially when you have a bunch of other people who are willing to do the same thing with you and suspend your disbelief. But if you're not that type of person, you're there for something that's quote unquote real, then you're not going to enjoy Disney World as much. So I completely understand that. If anybody offers me a trip to Disney World, we'll go any day of the week.
See now,
But I also will gladly go to any other place any day of the week because I've been to Disney a bunch of times. I want to experience other things as well.
I'm in the middle. He wouldn't go. You would go any day of the week.
Now, if you literally like somebody asked me to go for free, I would much rather stay 10 minutes outside of Disney in Florida and just enjoy Florida because Florida's a sweet state.
Yeah.
I think Florida is so cool. When we were there, I loved everything we did. We were in Florida and we went to Disney for one day. Now I know you can't do it in one day. I get that.
So you were only in there for one day.
Yeah, so I've only ever done Disney for like 14 hours.
I will say that's. I'm not gonna say you would have gotten that much more out of it, but I think you definitely would have gotten more out of it if you'd been there for more than a day.
I was there for 4 when I went, so I got to experience more.
I can understand that. We went to Epcot, so we did around the world.
And that's probably not the main place to go.
Yeah, this was also a trip where it happened last minute, and it was the only. I think my parents planned it, and they planned it not very far out in advance because there was another family, actually the same Daniel and his family, my uncle.
Oh, gotcha.
And all their kids were going, and they were going to the main one with the big castle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom, yeah, they were doing Magic Kingdom, and we couldn't get there. We couldn't get the tickets to that one, and so we did Epcot, and we were going to get hopper passes, but we were like, just forget it. We were honestly like, none of us were super gung ho about it, but the people that we were staying with and we had rented a house with were doing it, so we were like, okay, we'll do it.
I do recommend if you're ever provided the opportunity to do it and at least do a 4-day trip.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know if I can pass up from those little dive bar restaurants in Florida.
No. Here's the thing. Maybe make it. How do I put this? Stay off Disney property so that you go and you do what you want to do in the parks. But then if you want to leave that night and go and do something else, then you can do that. I would say you can skip Animal Kingdom. I know you disagree with this. You can skip Animal Kingdom.
That's the reason.
At least go to Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom because those are the best
Magic Kingdom
ones.
would be okay. Hollywood Studios.
I think Magic Kingdom. If I went back, Magic Kingdom would be up there because I think that castle's iconic.
That's the one. That's the one that is probably the best bet for anybody. Hollywood Studios is my favorite, but I would say that Magic Kingdom is but Magic Kingdom is going to have the most broad appeal.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So, another wonderful episode.
This is good.
Yeah, this is good.
Where we
Okay,
made sure to turn the cameras on,
one of them fell.
One of them did fall.
Yeah.
So,
Rip.
yeah, that's
worse things have happened.
a lot worse. Things
Also
have
proud to announce bringing to the podcast for the first time a sponsorship.
Oh.
We are fully sponsored by Blue Microphones. I just got word in today, so
That's great.
Super excited about
Cool.
this.
Send us some of your new fancy tech stuff, Blue, and we'll try it out.
Yeah. Don't send us microphones. Send us arms.
Arms?
Yeah,
Oh,
any
yeah.
microphone arms.
Send us some nice. Not that these $10 ones from Amazon don't serve their purpose. But
new ones be good.
let us know what trip you would like to go on. If you've ever experienced another country or culture, let us know what your favorite one was. Let us know if we were incorrect on any of our assumptions and opinions today. And let us know if there's any other things you'd like to see us talk about in the future and when you want Austin to come back on, which is every single week ever for the rest of the history of the podcast. As always, we don't have an outro. We'll see you later.